Hey Dash! What's the matter? What do you mean? Nobody likes storyboarding? No, that's not true. Should we do a video about it? Yeah! Just in case it's not obvious enough already, this video is all about storyboarding. Now the reason I'm doing it is because I often find that some students in particular will see storyboarding as getting in the way or a waste of time. They're very eager to get on with actually animating or making a film, and the last thing they want to do is sit down while they're full of all energy and excitement for the project and actually plan it out on paper. The thing is though that good storyboarding will save you time. It helps avoid continuity errors. It'll also help you make sure that your actual storyline makes sense when you come to edit it together. And it will avoid you having to go back and do retakes. In this particular video, I'm going to show you some examples of storyboards. I'm going to talk about a legendary director who was famous for his use of storyboards, and I'm also going to show you a storyboard that I made but done as an animatic. Okay. Good evening. This is Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, and called by some people the greatest British filmmaker of all time. In a career that lasted over half a century, he worked on more than 50 feature films. Films that included Psycho, Vertigo, and The Birds. Now the reason why I've included him here is because he was well known for his use of very detailed storyboards that he would actually draw himself. It's believed that his storyboards were so detailed that he would often give them to his camera crew and let them get on with filming from the storyboard, copying exactly what he had drawn. And while they were busy doing that, he could go and work on a storyboard for his next film. His films were famous for finishing under budget and before time, which made him a massively popular director to have, because it would save you money. If ever there was an example of a man who really knew how to use a storyboard, it was Alfred Hitchcock. When it comes to actually making your own storyboard, the first thing to know is that there is no set way of doing a storyboard. If you go to different production companies, different animation studios, different universities and schools, you'll see that lots of different people have lots of different ways of laying out and making their storyboards, and you'll hear lots of different things. There are a few key things though that you have to follow if you want to be successful. The first thing is that the actual drawing in the storyboard isn't massively important. And now I'm going to show you at the end of this one of my storyboards, and I took a long time drawing it, but yours don't have to be as detailed. But they must explain what is going on in the shot. I always think of it this way: if you handed your storyboard to someone else to film, would they be able to film it accurately to what you intended in your head? And if the answer is no, then you need to go back and improve that storyboard. The storyboard should show the camera shots being used and also any movements that are going to be on the screen. Movements such as the camera, but also which way the character's moving. All of that needs to be explained in the storyboard. For me, camera shots are one of the real important bits that I want to see when I'm looking at a storyboard. They should be the first thing underneath each picture in the description. You'll put these in to describe the shot you choose to use. An important thing to note though is that if you start looking at other storyboards, you'll often find codes different to the ones that I use. That's because, like storyboards, there's a little bit of variation on what people want to use. For example, I use LS long shot, which is to describe a shot where you would have for example, some people in the shot, and then you'd also show a large area of background behind them. Some people would actually call that a wide shot and use the term WS. So, of course, use the examples I've got here, but as with most things, look around for yourself and choose what suits you. To be honest, most of the general terms will come up time and time again. So if you know the basic ones that we've got here, then you should be okay. The important thing is that you use them in your storyboards. This storyboard is actually by a former student of mine. I've chosen this as the first storyboard I want to talk about because it follows a very traditional, normal look of a storyboard with the 6 panels on a page with the space underneath. This storyboard works really well because he's got quite a few things in that I want to see in a storyboard. First of all, in the bottom left hand corner of each framed image, you see it says shot number. It's important to number your different shots because when you come to edit later on, if you've done a filmed piece with 20, 30 or more individual shots in it, it can be quite difficult to put them all together. So having them numbered is vital. The other important thing in this is that underneath each of the panels he's used the correct camera code and description, and he's given a brief explanation about what's going on. Now I'm going to show you some other examples of storyboards but that look a little bit different. This storyboard uses a different layout. Instead of having the 6 frames with 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom on the piece of paper, this one goes for all of the actual frame images on the left hand side and then a larger section for writing on the right hand side. The main difference between this one and the previous one is that this one actually uses arrows to show directions and also to explain some of the different shots that are being used. You can see that it uses one to show the camera movement and another one to explain that they're using a POV shot, point of view shot, so that the actual camera will be moving into the scene. So that's another thing I want to see in a storyboard. If there's an important movement of a character or even a camera, mark it with an arrow to show which way it's going. This storyboard is a really good example of the use of arrows to show character movement. There's very limited use of words. I think tilt to show a camera moving up is probably one of the only written things in this storyboard. And although I have already said that I want to see descriptions of the camera shots, this storyboard does a really good job of explaining what's happening in each scene without any real writing going on. Now I would want my students to put in some of the actual descriptions of camera shots, but still, despite that, it's a really nice looking storyboard. This last example I want to show you has pretty much got everything that I would want to see if I was making an animation. Not only have got nice little illustrations that shows what's going on with arrows showing the direction of the characters, if you look underneath that, it actually includes the dialogue in one box, a description of the action and also the camera movement. This is a very nice storyboard. Okay, this is an animatic. Now an animatic is where you film your storyboard and then you will put sound effects onto it and you will also put some dialogue on as well. It's a nice way of kind of seeing what your film or animation will look like when it's filmed. It gives you a good idea. Now I've done this and there's no words at the bottom of each of the frames, so you can have to guess what camera angles they are. But I want you to look at the way I actually use the different camera shots to, for example, high angle shots where I'm looking down on characters to show the fear of the characters, and also look at how in one of the particular shots I extend the picture out of the frame, which you can do, you don't have to be stuck to a frame, and I do that to allow a character to run down some stairs. So if you want to show a character moving through a large section of scenery, you can actually join your frames together and draw your picture across there. Also look out for my use of arrows, and also there's a bit where there's a red square, and then from the corners of the square little red lines go to the corners of the actual panel, and that's used to show a zoom, and I put a little effect on to help you see that. So watch this, see if you can guess what camera angles I'm using. Hopefully you'll enjoy it.
What's going on here? I know what to do about this.
No! I see her!
Shut up!
Okay, that was a bit of a sick ending there. Anyway, hopefully you found some of this useful at the very least, and it's given you some tips about how you can make your own storyboards and the different ways you can lay them out. As long as you remember to use camera codes, arrows, and fully explain what's going on in each of your panels, you won't go too far wrong.